Is there anybody there?
In total, like if I had to say yay or nay on the rule changes wholesale, I would vote yes on the rule changes. I think in total they were positive.
What's up, Dad Hat Crew, and thank you for joining me on yet another episode of the Dad Hat Chronicles podcast, part 2 of my conversation with Paul Caputo of Baseball by Design and Patrick Larson of MiLB Head History. In this episode, we continue our conversation of our overall thoughts and feelings on the Major League Baseball season. This one, we discussed a couple of things. One, some of the rules that took place during this year, what we liked, didn't like, how we felt about it, all that good stuff, right? And then also we talked about relocation of certain baseball teams, expansion. So this was a good conversation. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give you the episode.
I would say, though, the two rules that I did not like, genuinely, I feel that the runner on second in extra innings changes the way the game is played. It fundamentally changes the way the game is played. It upends a lot of these rules, like, you know, a pitcher can throw a perfect game and lose because he can, you know, you can throw 9 perfect innings and then you can come in and give up 2 sacrifice flies and lose the game because the runner got to second. So like there's just too much of a wild card for that. And then the other one that I really, really dislike more than I thought I was going to is the limiting on pickoff attempts.
Yeah, I don't like that one. I'll say that. I'm not a fan of that one.
It changed it so much, right? Like to have one pickoff attempt and be like, well, they got one more chance at trying to pick them off. And then if that doesn't work, then they're probably not going to try to pick them off because then it's a balk. Like that was just one of those things. I just don't think you get repeated pickoff attempts enough for them to warrant changing the game so fundamentally.
I think it inflates stolen base numbers as well because a good base runner is going to know that you're going to do that, especially if you're a threat and you're someone who's going to steal a base. I think it's going to inflate those numbers and it's not going to really show how good of a base runner you really are. I mean, because anyone can just wait, can play that game of trying to force a runner, take a big lead. You know, if you're quick enough to get back, I mean it.
Well, think about it this way, because and I'm glad that you brought up Acuna, right? Because Acuna knew about that rule. Know well that Acuna knew that's like he can only throw here a couple of times, and then after that it's fair game. So all I have to do is act like I'm going to steal the base right away. He's going to throw over. I'm not going to get caught because he rarely did. If he didn't at all, right? And then at that point you're like, all right, now I can go.
Right.
Well, how many times did Acuna steal both second and third base? You know, in a given hit. You know, like he did that multiple times, and then there were seasons where you rarely ever saw that. I mean, you were lucky if they stole one base. Yep. So now guys regularly stealing second and third base in a given inning.
That's fun.
It just came more. Yeah, it is fun, but it also, with the limited pickoff attempts, it became more commonplace, which takes out a little bit of the dimension of excitement for me when you see it more. The rarity of something can sometimes. It's good. I like seeing it, but I also like it to be unpredictable when it happens. So
Trey Turner set a record for stolen base attempts without being caught this year. He had like 30 some stolen bases and was not thrown out once during the regular season. So, and then
another player, Ellie De La Cruz, Cincy.
Yeah.
So how many times did he steal home?
How many? I don't know the answer to that. How many times did he? I think
it was like at least 2 or 3 times that he did it. Since he came up, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's awesome. It really did affect the way in which a pitcher plays the game, right? Because a lot of the times, a lot of these pitchers, like, they throw a lot to first base, and they do it on purpose. They know they're not going to catch that runner, but they know they're going to, they're playing that psychological game with the batter and the runner at the same time.
I saw Bryce Harper steal home in the NLCS. That was pretty cool in Arizona. That was fun. Saw him do it in person. Hey, one other thing about this year that has not happened yet in the major leagues, but I really, really want it to. And then I have something else to say about the major leagues this year. But on Baseball Palooza, I saw for the first time at 2 different games at 2 different levels, the new challenge rule on balls and strikes.
Oh, I'm a fan.
That is awesome.
Love
Holy
it.
smokes.
Love it.
Barely took any time at all, like seconds, right? Like 4 or 5 seconds, and held the players accountable, held the umpires accountable. Like, if you're a complaining player, if you're going to complain about every single pitch and then you challenge it and then it gets shown that, hey, you were wrong, or if you're an umpire that keeps calling the same pitch off the plate a strike, and you're punishing batters for having a better eye than you do, to hold those people accountable, like even at AAA games, like that was so much fun to see, right? Like it was such an interesting part of the game. Did not hold the game up at all. Didn't have to go to New York. Didn't have to do any of that. Yeah. And then especially at the Tacoma Rainiers game where I was, they had the pitch tracking software set up that they actually had it like on screen, like they would show the pitch tracker on screen, and that was super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, the Gwinnett Stripers had that regularly. I mean, almost every game there were challenges. I mean, it was and it was very smooth because they'd say the player. I mean, it took, like you said, 5 seconds. It said the player's challenged to call at the plate, and they'd show up on the scoreboard where the pitch landed, and they're like, the call's been overturned, or that call stands.
Perfect.
And it
loved it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And what I also liked about it is they showed it on the screen, and on the jumbotron at the game. Like they showed it right away. It's like, and it's like, whoop, there it is. There's a camera right there. I saw. It's like that was a pitch outside, or that was a foul, and it was great because all the batter has to do is literally touch the top of his head of his helmet, and then challenge it right there. You go. It was such a good rule.
Yeah, and it involves the fans too when you put it up on the scoreboard like that, because now you know what's going on. You're part of the game, because a lot of times you're like, was that a yay or an A? Like what? Like what happened? So it very smooth. I agree. Good point.
I have something else about this season, Ed, that I want to comment on.
Go for it.
I realize I've been, blah, blah, blah. But one of the arguments that I think does not hold water, and it's like, you can point to a lot of evidence about it, but I think it's circumstantial. The playoff format being a disadvantage to teams that get the bye. I don't think that that's what's happening here. I don't think that's why these teams are getting knocked out. I don't think they're going cold because they have essentially like an all-stars break worth of time off. I think what's happening is these third division winners and these, the 3 wild card winners, they're getting there on the strength. And this is what the Phillies did. The Phillies got there on the strength of a good offense and a pitching rotation that had a really good 1 and 2 and a solid number 3. And you can win 85 to 90 games with 3 good pitchers in a 5-man rotation, right? I think the teams that were winning 100 games, the Braves, the Dodgers, right? Like these teams that were winning 100 games, they're doing it with a much stronger pitching rotation, top to bottom, like 1 through 5. Their 5th starter might be the 3rd starter on another team, but that means nothing when you get to the playoffs. And so
100%.
I don't think it's the fact that their hitters are going cold because they had a couple days off. I think it's because the 1 through 3 pitchers for teams like the Phillies and the Diamondbacks match up with the 1 through 3 pitchers on the Dodgers and the Braves, where you run into trouble. And that helps you in a 3-game series, a 5-game series, less so a 7-game series. But if you're playing these early series, these best of 5 series, and you only need to go 3 starters deep, then you're almost on equal footing with them. And I think that that's much more the case. I think if you really want to, quote, fix the playoff system to get the best regular season teams into the World Series, you've just got to play longer series. If you're going to have 4 rounds of the playoffs, but you won't, right? So I don't know what you do. if your goal is to get the best regular season teams into the World Series, I don't know what you do, because you don't want to play into December. You don't want to shorten the regular season, but I just don't think that eliminating the bye is going to fix the problem the way most people do.
I have a couple of thoughts. Okay. And then I'll start
I'll
with.
hang up and listen.
Yeah, thank you for calling. Okay, so first of all, on the let's go back to something that you said regarding the challenge rule, right? In AAA, AA, AAA, right? One, I saw it live, right? I was at a ball game out here at the Durham Bulls and with Zach Rabb, who works for minor league baseball, right?
Yeah.
and we're enjoying it. And I was telling us, like, you know what? I'm such a big fan of this new rule. He goes like, yeah, it's really has worked out for us as well. Like, for Major League, because it shows that a challenge system in which, like you said, the players, the coaches, the umpires are being held accountable live in front of your fans is good baseball.
Yeah.
It's great baseball.
Yeah.
When it comes to baseball, and I love to the playoffs, and I love your comment on the 1, 2, 3, lineup. That you're right. You're 100% right, because if you're already in the playoffs, that means that you fought 162 games. Is no longer one of those like, oh, you have to really win 140 to 150, you know what I mean? Be competitive one through all those. And the other ones, right, you're already in the playoffs no matter what. Right. The fact that like you have those 1, 2, and 3, it makes it a whole lot competitive. And also what also shows is these managers are thinking game 1, game 2, and game 3 at the same time. They're no longer just like, like a couple of years ago where the wild card was only one game. I was like, let's just throw our best player out there and then that's it. It is what it is. If the better team loses, that's all on them. The playoff format right now, I absolutely love. I am a big fan of the wild card series, a best of 3. Then you move on to the divisional series, a best of 5, and then the league championship 7, World Series 7. I think it is, out of all of the sports, it has to be the best playoff format out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree. Even rooting for a team that came out on the wrong side of a wild card series, it was perfectly fair. I mean, you've got to, when you finish in one of those positions, you have to go out and prove yourself. And I think you're given an opportunity in the best of 3 series to prove yourself, because you're going to throw your best out there, and it's not just a one game. I mean, if you have a starter that for that one game doesn't perform, at least you can come back the next day and have another one of your top arms come out and hopefully perform up to his capabilities. And if you don't do it, then, and the other team does, you've been given a fair shot. I mean, in a best of 3 series, I think you're given a fair shot to put your best, to put up your best effort. And if it doesn't work, you can't say it's just the luck of one game. I mean, if you can't do it over a 3-game series, you're probably not going to do it over a best of 5 or a best of 7. I mean, that's how I look at it. I mean, it's a good sample size of what you're going to be doing and how you're playing at that time. Because it is about, at the end of the day, who gets hot at the right time, and everything's got to click. So I think a good team, if they're going to do that, some of these teams that play 100 games, I think some of them get also burned out, because some of them, like an Atlanta Braves, like they had so many games where their offense is, churning out 10, 11, 12 runs. I mean, and hitting homer after homer. At some point, you're not going to do that over 162 games in the playoffs. I don't, more often than not. So I think that sometimes they may get burned out, and it's not every team, but I think in the case of like a Braves, they hit a juggernaut in terms of the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, that series to me wasn't even close. I mean, the one game that the Braves did win, it was a 3-inning rally. I mean, there were 3 innings of that series where I thought the Braves played like they did in the regular season. The rest of the time, they were a shadow of what they were. And, but I'm with you. I'm a really big fan of the series format. Even with my Blue Jays coming out on the wrong side of it, it was fair. I can't sit here and say that they were hosed. I mean,
and for anybody to say that, like, oh, they shouldn't be including this wild card format. Yeah, they should. You don't like to, a lot of times you don't like to give Major League Baseball too much credit, because how this is how it always goes. But I'll give them their due when it comes to this playoff format and adding the extra, the team and all that. Right, that was a home run. I agree with you, Paul. I think the throw to first, the pickoff, that's a dumb rule. I think they should get away from that. I will slightly disagree with you on the runner on second. Now, hear me out. Okay. Before you tell me to get off your lawn. I think that, the first, extra couple of innings, right, it should be normal baseball. That's what I would think. Then you move, instead of putting the ghost runner on second, in my opinion, should be on first. Now that
in what inning?
Say 12th inning,
14th.
Why? That's too far though, right? Because with Major League Baseball, and
I thought you were going to say 11th.
Huh?
I thought you were going to say the 11th inning.
No, I would say the 12th.
All right,
Give
12th inning.
The 10th inning and the 11th inning to play 2 extra innings of regular baseball, and at that point, all right, let's change the rules, right? Let's go, runner on first, and then see how it goes. I wouldn't put it on second because the runner on second is a much bigger advantage to the home team than it is to the away team. It's just how that goes, right? Because if the away team just scores that one run, the home team can still tie it, and then here we go again. We got to do this all over. So yeah. I would change it to that.
Yeah, I can see that, and people are always arguing this by with the slippery slope argument, right? Like let's give them the bases loaded and give them 4 outs, and let's start the 9th inning with a runner halfway down the third baseline. And so, I'm not going to do that to you, but I think your point about the advantage to the home team in that situation is just the sort of that's what just makes it feel sort of softball beer league to me, right? Like just to me is oh, well, we're paying these umpires for 2 hours and we got to get them out of here so we can all go to the bar and let's go hit sliders and hit on the bartender. So I think that's that it just feels that way to me. It just feels like, all right, we played enough. Let's get the heck out of here.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, and for the sake of argument of this, right? Okay, so do you think that it is fair for minor league baseball to have this rule over Major League Baseball? Is it okay in the minors to have this rule, the runner on second, right, in extra innings, over the major leagues?
So I do, and I'll tell you why. I'm a huge fan of the Pioneer League, which is not affiliated minor league baseball. It's independent minor league baseball. I knew this
was coming. I was just waiting. I was
waiting for it myself. It was in my mind.
I know. It was in my mind too, because that was my next question. I was like, all right, so let's go into the extra inning rule in the Pioneer League.
And the Pioneer League will tell you, it's totally fun. I have not gotten to see it yet. The Pioneer League, famously, they end their games if they're tied after 9 innings. They end them with a home run contest, which is gimmicky and hilarious and awesome. I totally love it, right? I think it's amazing. The reason I like it is because they will tell you explicitly, right? Like these independent minor leagues, every single dollar counts, and they are protecting their investments basically, right? Like they can't afford to have a pitcher go deep in a game and get injured, if a game goes 14, 15 innings, right? Like you just, that's just the reality of those leagues.
Okay.
I think it's also true in affiliated baseball, right? Like where their job is not to win games. I mean, as much fun as it is to go to a minor league baseball game and see the home team win, their job is to develop those players. Those minor league baseball games, with apologies to Eric Profit, are exhibition games, right? Like those are exhibitions.
Okay.
Those are players in training that the Major League Baseball team is putting out there to develop as players. And to me, the idea that Major League Baseball, which, as we know, took over minor league baseball, is going to implement rules to protect their investments, young players, then that's their prerogative. I think once you get to the highest level of the sport, the premier professional level of baseball, you play it in as pure a form as possible.
Okay.
That's why I'm okay with it in the minors, and I'm especially okay with the Pioneer League's home run contest.
Oh, I'm with you on the Pioneer League. I think it's a fun, for a certain for example, let's say the High Point Rockers, right? That's a professional baseball league. If they started doing that as well, I'm okay with that, right? This is because there has to be an understanding of what Major League Baseball is and affiliated baseball is, right? Collegiate Woodbat, the Northwoods League, or here in the Appy League, right? If they do something like that, okay, cool. Yeah. Major League Baseball, to an extent, I agree with you when it comes to those rules, right? I'm a fan of the pitch clock. Could it be extended a little bit more? Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be good. I'm very, very interested to see what they do this off season, right? Because it's going to be very interesting going forward. Theo Epstein, you got to hand it to the guy. He has done a pretty good job so far. More positives than the negative, for him right now.
That's my takeaway from this year in Major League Baseball. The rule changes, I think, in total, like if I had to say yay or nay on the rule changes wholesale, I would vote yes on the rule changes. I think in total they were positive.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. I was very skeptical to start the season because I didn't want to mess with baseball being baseball, like in terms of like even directly or indirectly being affected by a clock per se.
Yeah.
I mean, artificially or not, putting a time limit on it to some degree. But I'll admit that I was wrong. I mean, overall, and I'm with Paul on this in totality, I was really good with the rule changes. Certain things, I have minor complaints, kind of like Paul does, about certain aspects of them. I don't think they're perfect. I think they can be refined to kind of after learning from this year. I think there's tweaks that can be made, but overall, credit to Major League Baseball. I thought it's probably been good overall, if I'm honest, for families as well, especially families with kids. And I mean,
100%.
It's one thing for me to say, oh, I'd love to watch a 20 inning game. But then for some people who have kids that need to get kids at home in bed by a certain time.
Let's be honest, after the fifth inning, sixth, seventh inning, your kids turn into terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay. Just how that goes.
Well, I mean, I think it helps attendance, especially in the minor leagues, about, especially on like weeknights. I mean, it's one thing if you're doing it on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, which is where, let's face it, that's where most minor league teams are depending on filling the seats. But even on a given, you can have a theme night or a special giveaway night on a weekday, and you would at least have an increased chance to have a family of 4 or 5 to come to a game, rather than, knowing that there's no way in the world that the game ends.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when the game's going to end. You can basically guarantee you're not going to get those people through the turnstiles. So,
100%.
So overall, I'm a fan of the changes.
Okay. All right. A couple more questions, so that way, we start wrapping this up. But there are a couple of things that did happen throughout the year that I wanted to get you guys' opinion on. Is Major League Baseball's intent on, definitely they're looking to expand. That's it. It's not a secret, right? Everybody knows that Major League Baseball wants to they want to expand. Some of the things that did happen, though, that that the commissioner said was that they needed to resolve, but they still need to resolve 2 other teams' home overall, where they're going to be, their stadium, where they're going to be playing, and all of that. So that needed to be defined, and that needed to be solidified, right? And those 2 teams are the Oakland Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays. For some good positive news for our mutual friend Anna, right? The Tampa Bay Rays decided that, hey, listen, we want to keep you guys here. We are going to invest in the future. Here's a brand new ballpark. When it comes to the Oakland Athletics, that's a little bit different, right? And I did not know this, but the owners I don't think they haven't approved the move to Vegas just yet. Right.
That's still a little bit up in the air. Yeah. I'm curious to see, I saw something on Twitter the other day that said, oh, here's the construction plan, and they're going to start building, and the stadium's going to be ready for 2028. And there's sort of questions about where the Oakland A's will play during that time. I can't imagine that they're going to play 3 more seasons at the Coliseum, right? Like, I mean,
no way. Yeah.
No way in the world.
I also don't think that the Las Vegas ballpark where the Aviators play right now, I don't think that that's a viable thing either, right? Like, I just don't, there's no dome, right? Like, so it's outdoor baseball, and the capacity for that stadium is not nearly what it needs to be for a major league team. Mm-mm. And I realized that the Blue Jays played in Buffalo during COVID. I mean, that that was awesome.
That was different though, because there was no one there.
Right.
Hey, the Bison's got a lot of upgrades.
The Bison's got a lot of upgrades, and then they got to hang out and play in Trenton, which was that whole thing was just so wackadoodle.
Oh my God, that whole thing with the Trenton Thunder and the Major League Baseball draft league. Oh my God.
And the Bison's actually played at night as the Thunder.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It was
Bisons.
The Bisons. The Bisons.
So anyway, I feel like I hijacked your question there, Ed.
No, and that's what I want, right? Because that's the truth is we thought that the Oakland A's were going to be gone, and they were like, yeah, it's a done deal, right? Vegas, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
Not so fast, right? Like,
no, the only thing that's really officially happened is that, it was approved by the state of Nevada. I mean, that's like it's, they went through their due diligence, but that doesn't mean anything if the major league owners don't approve it. So,
which is
I mean,
wild, right? Because they're going to be leasing a ballpark in Vegas, when in Oakland, they would have been owning a brand new ballpark. They were doing this whole massive plan, redeveloping area in Oakland. And I don't know what the owner is doing at this point.
This gets at, by the way, something super interesting in baseball. It's a total diversion, and I apologize for this.
I love it.
4 or 5 years ago, if you had put on a game and the announcers were talking about betting odds and, gambling lines, like the fact that like national broadcast, the local Phillies broadcast does it, like they have incorporated gambling into the broadcast in a way that is totally shocking, right? Like totally. And not that I disapprove of it. I mean, we talked on your live show, Ed, about how, I enjoy timidly sports gambling. I never bet more than like $5 at a time.
Yeah, I'm not a big bet. So, yeah, exactly. I know when to quit.
But it's fun and I'm aware of it. And I like to go to Las Vegas with my friends, and it's a way to entertain yourself watching NFL football all day. I was shocked to find Major League Baseball just doing a 180 and fully embracing gambling.
But not just Major League Baseball, the NBA, NHL, and all of them. Every single league has approved.
Yeah.
This now.
And it's even extending over into like sports entertainment with like wrestling, like WWE. They've even started introducing it over there on those type things. So it's
about a fake sport. I mean, I'm kidding. Relax.
Well, and I wasn't talking about like whether you like it or not, but like it's made it over there now, which is already
real to me.
Yeah. So it's a so and I don't know how you're going to regulate it over there with stuff that's already predetermined in a sense anyway.
Right.
I mean, it's, so how are you going to bet on that? I mean, it's a very gray area, but yeah, and yet we can embrace all that. And then yet the likes of a Pete Rose are still banned.
No, it's wild to me. It's wild to me that they, and like I said, I don't disapprove. It just is shocking. Like it's just shocking to me. And I don't, I think nowhere in the world is sports gambling better regulated than in Las Vegas, right? Like, so I'm not worried about any sort of like gambling.
Oh no, 100%. That's why you have an NBA team there. That's why you have a WNBA.
Yeah.
That's just gonna not an NBA team. I'm sorry, WNBA, NHL. They have a team there. It's inevitable. The NFL right there as well is inevitable that all of the leagues want there, because that's a market that is just waiting to be taken advantage of.
But not just playing in Vegas, but now that sports gambling like DraftKings, right, like is an app that is legal in many states, and FanDuel, those things, and they're like the fact that they're just advertised mid-game. I mean, the Phillies broadcast will come on and they'll be like, well, at the beginning of this game, the Phillies were minus 105 and now they're minus 165 with a 2-run lead. And it's like, it's like, what the heck?
I mean, it's live betting, right? MGM is all over, Major League Baseball's app, right? I mean, it's there. You have their app in which you can play the bingo game, right? Like and it was like, all right, you can do different bettings on that. So it is over. It's over. At this point, if you live under a rock, you should know that they're all in bed with gambling. It's just how it is. It is a lot of money. They're not gonna lose it.
Well, and also sponsorships on jerseys, right? I mean now they're.
Oh, I knew that was coming. I mean,
on NBA jerseys. I mean, I don't know how the MLB regulates that, if they do. I mean, it's they now just outwardly show it on just not just during broadcast, but on the jerseys themselves. Now that they're allowing, which soccer's done for years. Soccer has been doing
it for years, exactly. In European leagues.
Yeah. As a person who's interested in sports branding, right? Like the way I got into this ultimately was with, writing for Chris Creamer on sportslogos.net. And, he focuses on logos and he focuses on uniforms. And the introduction of ads on baseball uniforms, I think, was inevitable. And I'm going to go grumpy old man here, I guess. But I don't. So maybe I'm not fully grumpy old man on this. I don't fully 100% object to ads on baseball uniforms. I think it was inevitable. I think there are some that they've like integrated the colors well. And like, if honestly, the Phillies don't have ads yet, but if they were to do like a Tasty Cake ad or like a Wawa ad or, Pennsylvania Dutch Birch Beer, some like uniquely Philly thing, like that have them as a sponsor, I actually think that would be kind of awesome. I would get a jersey with that on it. There are a lot of things that are offensive about the Atlanta Braves. One of the many things that is offensive about the Atlanta Braves is that freaking Quikrete ad, that bright yellow Quikrete ad on the sleeves.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
How bad is that bright yellow ad? It dominates the whole jersey.
Houston, Oxy.
Well, Houston's Oxy one.
The Blue Jays is the TD Ameritrade, I think is what it is.
Yeah, but that one actually is not as bad because you really don't notice it. Cleveland, the Guardians, Marathon, right? The same colors as their jerseys, red. So it blends in.
Yeah, that bright yellow Quikrete ad on the Braves. I was just like, I can't believe what I'm looking at here. It's so bad.
That one was bad.
Yeah,
that one, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Excuse me, guys. I was just we were talking about DraftKings. I just need to sort of check in. Oh, look at that. The Carolina Panthers won me a couple of dollars today. How about that?
Oh, if you guys want to know what's that all about, why don't you tune into the Dad Hat Chronicles Sports Show Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. So
and where can you stream that?
Oh, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just look for the Dad Hat Chronicles.
Yeah. So what you're saying is really anywhere that you get your social media.
Oh,
right?
100%, my friend.
Okay.
100%.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure.
Hope you guys enjoyed part 2. Okay. Paul, Patrick, and I really had a lot of fun discussing the rules, relocation, all of that. Okay. Make sure if you haven't listened to part 1, it is on the Dad Hat Chronicles podcast list. It is there. Also, you can check it out on corporatemedia.com. It is there. But I want to thank both of them already. Again, they really stepped up for me when I needed some help with some content when I lost a lot of my previous episodes. So thank you so much, guys, for doing that for me. I do want to mention their separate content that they have. Okay, Patrick, MiLB Hat History. It is really good. Okay, it gives you a history of the hats that the teams have put out there throughout the years, batting practice, home, away, all that fun stuff. Okay, guys, got to take a look at that. It is really good. And then Paul, my good friend, he has a Baseball by Design podcast. It gives you a behind-the-scenes look at what it really does look and it takes to create a logo, a design, everything, right? From colors to looking at the history of the town, all of that. Guys got to look at it as well. corporatemedia.com for both of them, okay? And as for me, Dad Hat Chronicles podcast, I am on Corporate Media, Apple Podcasts, everywhere, okay? And then also, I want to make sure that you guys are aware that on every Tuesday, Thursdays, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, the Dad Hat Chronicles Sports Show. We have various co-hosts. This week, again, I'm going to have Donnie and Patrick Larson. We're going to talk baseball. We're going to talk football, college football, right? The Major League playoffs are over. Texas Rangers won, so that's done. Now we get into the college playoffs, right? The rankings, all that fun stuff. NFL is really heating up, so make sure you guys are watching that. I put that on Twitter, on YouTube, pretty much wherever you can see a show. It is there. Also on Facebook. So guys, thank you so much, and then we will see you guys next week. See ya.
Guys, let's take a break and come back next week.